Maria stepped off the dusty road and looked around. The town was small, with low wooden buildings, a few shops, and the smell of livestock in the air. She had been traveling for days and was tired, but her determination kept her moving. She was an Apache woman in her mid-30s, strong, capable, and proud of who she was. Yet she knew the world outside her community was not always welcoming. People here often judged others by their skin, their background, or their heritage. But Maria had skills that could not be ignored. She could cook like no one else she knew, and she hoped that would be her way into a new life. She approached the largest ranch in town, a place that seemed intimidating at first. It was run by rancher Tom, a man in his 50s, broad-shouldered, with a weathered face that told stories of years spent under the sun. Maria had heard that Tom was fair but careful in whom he trusted. Many outsiders had tried to work on his ranch before, and failed because the ranch hands, or the town people, didn't accept them. Maria took a deep breath, adjusted her simple dress, and walked up to the gate. "I want to work," she said, her voice calm but firm. "I can cook, sir. I just need a chance." Tom looked at her with curiosity. He had seen many people come and go, some confident, some desperate. But there was something in Maria's posture and eyes that made him pause. She did not beg or plead, yet there was confidence and honesty in her voice. "No one trusts an Apache," she said quickly, as if reading his thoughts. "But I can cook, sir." Tom raised an eyebrow. He had heard whispers of prejudice from his workers, townspeople, and even neighbors. Yet here was a woman who not only acknowledged the suspicion she might face but also showed courage in stepping forward anyway. There was something admirable about that. "All right," Tom said finally. "You can stay for a day. Show me what you can do. Prepare a meal for the ranch hands. If it's good, we will talk further." Maria nodded, trying not to show the nervousness creeping in her chest. The kitchen at the ranch was modest but functional, with wooden counters and a large fire pit for cooking. She unpacked her small bag, which contained a few personal items and some of the ingredients she had brought from her community: spices, dried herbs, and special grains. She wanted to show not just her cooking skills, but also a touch of her culture and the flavors that reminded her of home. As Maria began preparing the meal, the ranch hands gathered around, watching her work with suspicion. Some whispered to each other, "Why are we letting her cook for us? She's an outsider," muttered one. Another added, "I don't know if I can trust her. What if she ruins the food?" Maria heard the whispers but did not let them shake her. She focused on chopping vegetables, seasoning the meat, and mixing ingredients carefully. Her movements were precise, her hands steady, and her face calm. The smell of cooking food soon began to fill the air, and even some of the skeptical ranch hands couldn't help but take notice. By the time she finished, the food was ready to serve. The meal included roasted meat with herbs, a warm bread she had baked from scratch, and a simple but flavorful vegetable stew. She placed the dishes on the large wooden table and invited the ranch hands to sit. At first, they were hesitant, taking small portions, looking at each other as if seeking permission to taste. But as soon as they took their first bites, their expressions began to change. The flavors were rich, comforting, and satisfying. Some of the men exchanged glances, surprised at how good the meal was. "This is really good," muttered one ranch hand, almost under his breath. Another added, "I didn't think she could do this, but it's excellent." Maria smiled softly, feeling a small sense of accomplishment. She had known her cooking was good, but it was more than just food. It was her way of showing that she could contribute, that she could belong. Tom watched quietly from a corner, his arms crossed. He could see the change happening before his eyes. The men, who had been suspicious and skeptical, were now eating with enthusiasm. Even those who had been the harshest critics could not deny her skill. After the meal, Tom approached Maria. "You did well today," he said. "Not just the cooking, but the way you handled the kitchen and the men. That takes patience and confidence. I want you to stay and work here." Maria's heart lifted. She had feared rejection, feared that no matter how skilled she was, she would be turned away because of prejudice. But Tom's words reassured her. She nodded, accepting the offer, knowing that this was only the beginning. Over the next few days, Maria settled into the routine of the ranch. She rose early, prepared meals, and even helped organize the pantry and storage areas. The ranch hands began warming up to her, some still quiet and cautious, others more open and friendly. Maria's presence gradually became a normal part of the ranch life. But it wasn't always easy. Some townspeople would come to the ranch and make comments about her heritage. Some workers still treated her with quiet suspicion. Maria learned to face these challenges with patience. She worked hard, focused on her tasks, and let her actions speak for themselves. Over time, the whispers faded. People started to notice her dedication, her skill, and her calm determination. One afternoon, Tom called her aside. "Maria, you've done well. But I want you to know, this isn't just about cooking. I see how you handle challenges, how you treat people, and how you adapt. Those qualities matter here. If you keep this up, you could be more than just a cook." Maria felt a sense of pride, but also responsibility. She understood that this was more than a job. It was a chance to prove herself in a world that had judged her unfairly. She nodded, saying, "I will do my best, sir. I want to be useful here, in any way I can." The storm of prejudice had not disappeared completely, but Maria had taken the first step in changing perceptions. She realized that trust had to be earned, not demanded, and she was ready to work for it. Every meal she cooked, every small act of dedication, was a step toward acceptance. By the end of the first week, even some of the most skeptical ranch hands were acknowledging her efforts. They began asking her for advice on meals, sharing stories with her during breaks, and sometimes even laughing at her gentle jokes. Maria felt a warmth she had not expected. She was no longer just an outsider. She was slowly becoming part of the ranch family. One evening, as the sun set over the hills and the ranch settled into a quiet rhythm, Maria looked around the kitchen. The smell of fresh bread lingered, the dishes were clean, and the men were resting after a long day. She felt a quiet satisfaction. She had taken the first step, but she knew her journey was far from over. There would be more challenges, more skepticism, and more moments when she would have to prove herself. Yet she felt ready. She had shown that skill, determination, and honesty could break down barriers. She had faced suspicion, yet she had not let it defeat her. And for the first time in a long time, Maria felt a sense of belonging, even if it was just the beginning. The ranch hands and Tom may not have fully understood her life, her culture, or her experiences, but Maria had begun to build a bridge, one meal at a time, one act at a time. She was changing the way people saw her, and perhaps, in time, the way they saw the world. Life on the ranch had become a rhythm for Maria. Each morning, she woke before the sun, her hands ready to prepare breakfast for the ranch hands and Tom. She had grown accustomed to the smell of the fresh morning air, the lowing of cattle, and the occasional neigh of a horse. Though her muscles ached sometimes from the long days, Maria found satisfaction in the work she was doing. She was no longer just the outsider who had arrived with a suitcase and hoped she was becoming part of the ranch's daily life. The ranch hands, too, had begun to change. Some of them still carried the memory of prejudice in their eyes, but most had started to see Maria differently. They admired her skill, her quiet confidence, and the way she handled herself during busy mornings. She was not just cooking for them, she was organizing, guiding, and helping the ranch run smoothly. Even some of the men who had been openly skeptical in the beginning now sought her advice about meals or the best way to prepare certain ingredients. One afternoon, a sudden storm rolled in from the hills. Dark clouds gathered, and the wind began to whip through the open fields. Tom knew that a storm like this could cause serious trouble. The fences were old in some areas, and the cattle could easily escape if the barriers failed. He called his ranch hands together to prepare for the worst. The men quickly grabbed ropes, tools, and anything that could help secure the animals. But the storm was more severe than they had expected. Rain started to fall in heavy sheets, and the wind made it difficult to see. Some of the ranch hands were unsure of what to do, afraid that the situation might get out of control. Maria did not hesitate. She grabbed a lantern and ran toward the loose cattle, her voice loud and firm over the storm. "This way. Help me secure them," she called. At first, some men hesitated, looking at her as if to question why she was taking charge. But then, seeing her confidence and determination, they followed. She guided the men calmly but quickly, helping to secure the animals one by one. Her experience from her community, where she had learned to handle both animals and challenging situations, proved invaluable. The men were amazed at her decisiveness and courage. Even Tom, watching from a distance, felt a surge of respect for her. By the time the storm passed, the cattle were safe. The fences were repaired enough to hold them, and the ranch hands were soaked and exhausted. Yet, something had changed. The men no longer looked at Maria as just a cook or an outsider. They had witnessed her bravery, her quick thinking, and her ability to act when others hesitated. After the storm, they gathered in the kitchen, drying off and warming up. Maria had prepared a simple stew to restore their energy. As the men ate, they talked quietly, no longer whispering doubts or complaints. One of them said, "I didn't think she could handle that." But she did. She saved a lot of trouble today. Another nodded, adding, "We might have lost some of the cattle if she hadn't acted so fast." Tom entered the kitchen, his face still damp from the rain, but his eyes were warm with approval. He looked at Maria and said, "You've shown more than cooking skills. Today, you showed courage and leadership. That matters here. That matters more than anything else." End quote. Maria felt a mix of relief and pride. She had worked hard to prove herself in a world that had doubted her from the start. And now, she saw that her actions were finally being recognized. But she knew her journey was not just about gaining respect, it was about building trust. Trust was earned, and she was determined to continue proving herself every day. Over the following weeks, Maria's role on the ranch grew. She began helping Tom with planning meals for visiting guests, coordinating with the ranch hands to make sure everyone had enough to eat, and even helping with some administrative work. Her skills in organization and leadership became as valuable as her cooking. Tom often consulted her on small decisions, respecting her opinion and judgment. The town itself began to notice the change. People who had once whispered and doubted Maria started to hear about her bravery and dedication. Slowly, some of the townspeople who had been harsh and prejudiced began to approach her with curiosity rather than suspicion. They asked about her cooking, her recipes, and even the ways she had helped during the storm. Maria found herself becoming a bridge between the ranch and the town. She never spoke harshly about those who had doubted her. Instead, she continued to focus on her work and let her actions speak louder than words. Her calm, patience, and willingness to help, even when others hesitated, slowly shifted the attitudes of those around her. One day, a neighboring rancher came by, curious to see how Maria had earned her place. He observed her moving through the kitchen with precision and care, then joined Tom and the ranch hands in the dining area. After tasting the meal she had prepared, he nodded and said, "I've been wrong about outsiders before, but she's something else. She's earned respect here." Maria smiled politely, feeling a quiet satisfaction. She had not sought recognition. She had only wanted a chance to show her skills and contribute. But seeing the shift in perception reminded her that courage, dedication, and hard work could indeed change hearts. Despite her growing acceptance, Maria remained humble. She remembered the long road she had traveled, the initial suspicion she faced, and the moments when doubt crept into her own mind. She knew that maintaining respect and trust required consistency, care, and patience. Every day, she worked with focus and integrity, ensuring that she never gave anyone a reason to question her again. One evening, after the ranch hands had gone to bed, Tom approached Maria quietly. The sun had set, casting warm, golden light across the ranch. "Maria," he said softly, "I want you to know that your actions have changed this ranch. You've shown us that skill and courage are more important than assumptions. I'm proud to have you here." Maria felt her heart swell. "Thank you, sir," she replied. "I only want to do my best and help wherever I can." "I'm grateful for this chance," Tom nodded. "It's more than just a chance. You've become part of this family. Don't forget that." For Maria, that was the greatest reward. She had come to the ranch seeking employment, uncertain and wary of judgment. Now, she had found not only a place to work, but a community that respected and valued her. She had proven that prejudice could be overcome, one act at a time, through dedication, courage, and kindness. In the following months, Maria continued to build her life on the ranch. The once skeptical ranch hands now treated her as an equal. She shared her knowledge, taught new recipes, and guided others in ways that helped the ranch thrive. She had faced doubt and suspicion, but she had transformed it into respect and admiration. Her journey was not just personal. It was a story for the whole town. People began to question their own assumptions about outsiders and prejudice. They saw that actions mattered more than labels, and that trust could be built through honesty, skill, and integrity. Maria's story became a quiet inspiration. She had arrived with nothing but determination and a few cooking skills. Yet she had changed lives around her. She had earned respect where doubt once stood, and her presence on the ranch had become a testament to what one person could do when given a chance. By the end of the year, Maria was not only the cook of the ranch but a respected member of the community. She had weathered storms, both literal and metaphorical, and emerged stronger, proving that courage and determination could break through the toughest walls of prejudice. Tom often watched her with quiet pride, knowing that his decision to give her a chance had been one of the best he had ever made. And Maria, once the outsider who had arrived with hope and a few ingredients, now stood firmly in her place, respected, trusted, and valued. She had shown that true worth is not measured by heritage or background, but by heart, skill, and the willingness to act with courage when it matters most.